What's up, snowboard companies? I'm back, and I have some unfinished business that I got to attend to. The rest of you snowboard brands must be slandered, and that's what this video is for. If you're a snowboard company and you don't see your brand here, that is because it is too small and pointless to slander because no one even knows about it. But so there's your slandering. Everyone shall be slandered. The reason I'm doing this video and the reason I feel inspired to do so is because we're heading into the 2026 season and there is some crazy business practices going on, some absolute gaslighting from these snowboard companies to us, the consumer. It's crazy to be gaslighting the consumer when you're trying to sell a $500 plus product. Y'all got to be doing better, and some of these business practices need to be exposed because it is comically bad. Not all of you guys, of course. There will be some positivity in this video. I had a lot of people reach out to me after the first video being like, dude, please be nice to this brand. They're super cool. They hook up my homies with free boards. And that is all well and good. I address that. If your homies are getting free products from a company, you should support that company. You know, if my homie was getting shit from Arbor, I would think Arbor was cooler. And I would buy like an Arbor t-shirt or something. If your local shop only carries what you perceive to be the lamest, kookiest brand, but you think your local shop is cool, then I think you should still buy from that local shop. Once again, these top 3 things on this pyramid are of way more importance than the bullshit I will be talking about in this video. So take it with a grain of salt. You can like a company that I don't like, dude. Don't whine and text me on Instagram DMs about it. Alright? Now that that's out of the way, let the slandering begin. First up, we're going to be looking at LibTech and Never Summer. These are both American manufactured companies, and there's a lot of talk in snowboarding right now. You know, the general question is my snowboard being made by slaves or child laborers? And you know, I don't have any definitive evidence to prove that one of these companies is using unethical business practices.
Just a thought. Those kids don't look that busy.
But if you're made in America, if you show tours of your factory, at least we don't have to question it. You know, at LibTech and Never Summer, you know, it's somebody just scraping by, making minimum wage to make a living in America, which is objectively better than, you know, child labor or human slavery. And for the people that are looking for things made in America, the 2 places that they look first are either LibTech or Never Summer. So I think it's fair to put these guys head to head against each other. Let's start with the name. Mervin Manufacturing kind of has the worst names in snowboarding. LibTech, GNU. What the fuck even is a GNU? LibTech, Liberal Tech, Owned, Roasted. Never Summer, excellent name. What does every snowboarder wish for? To never have summer. So Never Summer, clear W. I've heard this thrown around about Never Summer. Some people call it the Colorado Confederate flag, and this makes a lot of sense. You see a lot of Never Summer logos on Jeeps and big trucks with like a Punisher skull and like a Blue Lives Matter flag next to it. LibTech has this like makeshift like World Industries wizard water droplet type of guy. I'm gonna give LibTech the W for the logo. It's a pretty close battle, but all of the Punisher, Never Summer, Blue Lives Matter people are gonna demote how I perceive the Never Summer logo. You know, it is kind of just a cringe logo to have on your truck in Colorado. Who takes the dub on the graphics? Let's start with LibTech first. Some people like the LibTech graphics, and I completely understand why when you look at the Mayhem rocket. And some people hate the LibTech graphics, and I can understand why when you look at the Mayhem rocket. I personally, I'm a fan of this. I'm a fan of the idea of it being hand-drawn, of them using real artists. Clearly, with most of these, they put a lot of time and thought into it, whether you like it or not, which, you know, is respectable, especially with AI graphics coming out every single day. LibTech, I don't think, is guilty of that. And, you know, these are hand-drawn boards. You know, even if you don't like this, you gotta respect that the skeleton has all its ribs, all its fingers, and it is not total AI slop. Both these companies commit a pretty unoriginal, uncreative idea, which is to put mountains on your snowboard graphic. I've always thought that this is cliche and really stupid. I would never buy a snowboard that has mountains on it. Like, you're already going to be in the mountains. You know, you could look around to look at mountains. Put something besides a chairlift and mountains on your snowboard. I just think that's pretty unoriginal. That being said, while I'm not the biggest fan of the LibTech graphics, I think they have an easy W against Never Summer. Alright, so LibTech is in the lead right now. LibTech has a legend, Travis Rice.
We are releasing our NFT roadmap to accompany Natural Selection Tour into the future. You know, you might wonder, really NFT? That's where you're going? Now, hear me out for a second.
When it comes to our ability to build community around what the tour is, what the tour stands for, there's really incredible technology behind the non-fungible token and the blockchain.
Huh? And Never Summer has a legend, in my opinion. I'm not sure if everyone would agree with this. Sam Klein. And these two riding styles are completely different. If you're watching a video with Sam Klein repping the Never Summer board, you're going to see gnarly handrails. You're going to see him jumping onto buildings and doing just mind-boggling shit. Tricks that no street rider thinks of doing. And that's what I would rather watch, dude. Travis Rice, I will like Travis Rice someday when I'm super old and geriatric and I'm done riding the park. The way I see it right now, I don't own a helicopter, I don't own a snowmobile, and I'm not going to ski 10 hours for a 15-minute line. So the Travis Rice riding does not really inspire me. But Sam Klein, clear W for me. If you have an off day to go snowboarding and not skiing. That's the way I see it, so that's why Sam Klein gets the W. LibTech has so many IPA dads, 30-year-olds with huge-ass beer bellies and bearded men that all ride the Orca. And you'll be on the gondola with these guys. Yeah, and it will be like a 3 inches of fresh snow at Steamboat, and they'll say outlandish shit unironically like, dude, I'm trying to find some lines that Travis would do. And you'll see some orcas go into the park sometimes, and it's always this fat, bearded alcoholic that eats shit on a box. You just cringe at these orca riders. It's a bad look, all these orca riders just being really lame at the ski areas and thinking that they are actually as good as Travis Rice. With Never Summer, you also have, you got a bizarre mix of people that ride Never Summers. I'll just list them off. Mexicans, cops, first responders, veterans, moms. If I see a 30 to 40-year-old woman snowboarder, there's probably a 50% chance that she rides this board. I see this board everywhere with your non-park riding woman. They have transplant tech bros, occasional certified rippers. To conclude, these guys both get an L. When you look at all these other companies, LibTech and Never Summer are on the bottom tier of people that actually buy their boards and them being good snowboarders.
Темная ночь, только пули свистят по степи.
Do they make skis? LibTech, of course they do. They get the L. Never Summer gets the W on this category. I could be neutral on LibTech if I did not find out about what I'm about to show you. And that is this Travis Rice ad. And it's not a one and done. This has been their whole marketing campaign. Bizarre pants he's wearing. Just watch this.
Days in pinnacle terrain with the pinnacle of snowboard material science. The Apex Orca is featherweight performance for heavyweight terrain. Lightning fast reaction time with a snappier loft underfoot. This board, against all odds, incarnated for the rider that demands Sahelu with their snowboard. Bonding to the carbon through your very own neural tendrils enhances.
So, I mean, it's just total AI slop garbage.
What kind of rider is the Orca for?
And Travis needs to lay off the drugs too, dude.
Yes, it's a powder hunting predator with insane float, but it's also a resort carving, groomer chomping daily driver. You can rip the pillows, hammer tree runs, use that whale tail kink to crack wall hits and carve ice all in one run. Now, hear me out for a second.
You may be thinking, who gives a fuck? It's just a stupid Instagram reel. Why are you getting your fucking panties in a wad about a fucking TikTok? The reason it's a big deal is because they are using this disgusting AI bullshit, just objectively gross and not even real snowboarding ad, to try to sell a plank of wood that's $700. It should fucking make you mad that they feel like their customers are stupid enough to buy a $700 board with $0 of a marketing budget. You know, the idea to sit in a room and be like, hey, this snowboarding market is extremely competitive. How can we sell and push this $700 snowboard? And your solution is to like make an ad like this? It's shameful. But when we look at Never Summer's sitting in the room together. They're like, we just made this, new snowboard technology that works on ice. What should we do to sell it? And they show these freaking bomb-ass carved dads carving it up on a fucking frozen lake. It shows how the product works, and ultimately it is just much more creative than doing an amalgamation of AI slop to try to sell a $700 board. This comment's pretty funny. Now do a heel side turn, and guess what? They did part 2, which got way less views, and this video is all about the heel side turn. So you could call it gimmicky, whatever. Never Summer actually had some thought behind this, unlike LibTech, and he is absolutely doing a heel side turn. So I like this way more than this LibTech Travis Rice ad, which I absolutely despise, and I think this is an abomination within snowboarding. Clear L and easy W for Never Summer. Yeah, LibTech, you would probably get C tier, but that really gross and ugly AI ad is my justification for giving you D tier. Most people would give Never Summer a D or a C tier. I think mainly the main gripe against Never Summer is that it's from Colorado. Most of skiing and snowboarding looks at Colorado and they see it as pretentious, they see it as kooky, bizarre, overhyped. Colorado is probably not as cool and as core as the Midwest or the East Coast or whatever, and they kind of look down at Coloradans and they think Never Summer's kind of cringe for that. I would understand this, and I completely agree with most of the things you say about Coloradans. We are kooky, we are lame, whatever, but it's my job to defend Colorado. My irrational Colorado patriotism, even though I don't even live in the state anymore, carries on, and no one can disrespect Colorado unless it's me. So the region and my loyalty for that beautiful square state, no matter how cringe it is, I gotta give Colorado the W for that. And because of my relentless Colorado patriotism, I gotta bump them up to 5 big booms tier. You can talk shit about Colorado all you want. I kind of hate Colorado too for a lot of reasons, but at the end of the day, my allegiance is Coloradan, dude. I gotta respect the factory in Denver, dude. Come on now. So Never Summer, because of your Colorado heritage, I'm gonna give you 5 big booms.
To do what I had to do to make these people listen, to learn, was just above me.
Next up, we'll be looking at GNU snowboards. Now, I think Mervin Manufacturing is kind of smart because obviously LibTech was not made for me. That's for boomer, old riders. That's for your more average weekend warrior, powder hunter type of rider. It just seems like GNU tries to sell more to the park riders. You can tell that by their team and the videos and there's a guy in the park. I don't think there's a single picture of anybody in the park on the LibTech website. Pretty smart to try to appeal to both demographics with different brands. GNU, I think they are pretty cool. They have good riders. They kind of own the alternative street rider type of guy. the tortured artist type of guy. Just kidding. I like Forrest Bailey. I really don't know anything about him. This stunt is insane. One of the greatest clips to ever happen on a snowboard. But yeah, he just seems like an artsy individual. A classic good alternative white. Those are always some of the best street riders. My main issue with GNU is extremely surface level. It is simply their name.
I had a cat at the time that my dad and I called the wildebeest. And so I finally went, I like wildebeest, but that's really wrong. So I looked it up in World Book Encyclopedia and it said GNU. And it had the pronunciation new, but I went, I'm gonna call it GNU. So I did that. Just to be temporary for those 20 tops until I thought of a real name. And then, what I didn't know, little kids would see me and they start singing Gary GNU songs. Kids are all singing like Gary GNU songs to me. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but they're singing and they would say it, GNU, like I was saying. So, yeah, some
weird bullshit name. Wildebeest sounds way cooler than GNU. He was inspired by this TV show that kids were singing to him or something. A puppet that parodies the news. No good news is good news with Gary GNU. And yeah, GNU's name is also not good news, bro. Anyways, I think that's pretty interesting lore, but still, in my opinion, an atrocious name. Which totally sucks, because I do think they are pretty cool. I like their team, I like their videos, I even like their graphics. They would get 5 big booms tier, but that name is just so bad. So, C tier it is. The Mervyn slander has been pretty harsh. I want to lift them up a bit. Bent Metal Binding Works, that is the sickest name in snowboarding, dude. That is a fucking binding name. Bent Metal Binding Works. They have simple, sturdy bindings. I'm a fan. I've never had them break on me. Bent Metal Binding Works, that name will get you A tier. And way better than Union. I've been having some pretty bad luck with Union recently. They seem like they're built cheap. I don't get why they're so overhyped. Like, I shouldn't be breaking the high backs and my heel cup should not be moving in and out on me. And that's all stuff I've experienced with Union. And I just don't get the hype. Especially when there's companies that have names as sick as Bent Metal. Bent Metal is a way cooler name than Union. So, Union, D tier. Boom!
And just like Capita, they used to be horny. Major fall off.
Alright, next up we'll be looking at KORUA shapes. A lot of people requested this because, you know, I really despise minimalist graphics. I think a lot of Battalion's graphics are kind of boring. I don't like Solomon's graphics for being too minimal, too simple. You know, so they sent me KORUA shapes being like, oh, I can't wait to hear your opinion on KORUA. They're as minimal and as simple as they get. And if you don't know, this is how all of their boards look. And I'm not as big of a hater as you may think I am. The reason why I really don't like minimalism is, you know, I think our generation, all we have really ever seen in art and design is minimalism. All the logos get simpler. Everything is so plain colors. There's no detail. We don't really see any detail in anything. And this, you know, this exists outside snowboarding. And I think we really just want to see detail. So I think that's probably my main reason why I'm against minimalism, because it's probably one of the easier graphics to do. And in a world of minimalism, it's nice to see some stuff with detail. And in snowboarding, I prefer a snowboard that has detail over some snowboard that looked like it was made on Microsoft Word. That being said, there is a market for this. And what I like about KORUA is their branding isn't obnoxious, boring Helvetica type on the bottom of their board. If their board was this simple and it had an obnoxiously big KORUA text on the bottom, I would absolutely despise this board. I can see the appeal of just a white board, red bottom sheet. I'm not too much of a hater of that. What I am a hater of is this disposable income company boards, dude. This is just a freak show board. Nobody is going to buy this as their daily driver. No one's going to ride this in the park. And, you know, you don't see any, like, real park riders. You don't see any, like, you know, 16 to 25-year-olds rep a KORUA, because you need disposable income for this type of board. You know, there's no guy that just has one board and it's a KORUA. I really doubt that exists. And, Yeah, I think having a disposable income board is kind of anti-snowboarding. This is meant for some carved dads. No hate on carved dads, but you know, this is just a disposable income board, and it's not really for me, so gotta give it D tier. Alright, I found exactly what I was talking about in their own words, and this describes what I mean by disposable income snowboards. KORUA was born from a group of friends who happened to be traveling snowboard nerds in our 30s. On a trip to Japan in 2012, we witnessed the country's thriving snow surf culture, and specifically their built for deep powder boards. 30-plus-year-old, disposable income people that can afford trips to Japan. That's who this board is made for. Most of you guys probably haven't been to Japan. If you're hiking your local terrain park, you're probably not looking for a board that can ride the deep powder in Japan. And it's fine to market to you know, people that are looking for epic snowboards for Japan, but that's not really the core snowboarder. That's not the guy that is hiking his local park every single day to get better. That's not really who this snowboard is made for. And for that, that's why they get D tier. Alright, next up we're going to be looking at Yes. I've always liked Lobster, which is now Yes. I've always liked Haldor Heglason, however you pronounce that weird European name. I think there's some pretty cool dudes on Yes. They have Pat Fava now. I like the clips where they're jibbing TVs. I've liked all of their videos they've ever made, which is why everything I'm about to say is with love. And Yes Snowboards really took a horrendous blunder this year with their most recent 2025-26 drop.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
And pulled out her own eye.
You should look at this and you should just feel disgust in you. And it's normal to feel that because this wasn't made by a human. You know, you need a soul to create something. And I think because we're humans, because I have a soul, because you have a soul, we can look at something like this and we may not be able to explain why, but like deep down inside we can just tell that this wasn't made by a human, that whatever made this doesn't have any human shared life experiences, and it's in that weird uncanny valley that just grosses you out and pisses you off, and it's just objectively ugly, because of course it's all AI generated slop. The weird thing is like Yes's approach to it. This is a pretty good meme for a lot of reasons, and I just use this for simplicity, but to be honest, this guy up here, this is Yes Snowboards. They are in the negative IQ for this one. So this is probably not the best model I could have chose. Most people are saying AI art is bad, you know, and that they may not have the best reasoning. The high IQ person can conclude AI art is bad with good reasoning. And then Yes, it's just being, they're just gaslighting the customer, dude. It's so crazy, actually. And this is their own words. As a satirical and paradoxical twist, we thought it would be fitting to involve AI in a conspiracy design process, as it's completely one of the biggest conspiracy theories of them all. A conspiracy theory design inception, so to speak, with many layers to it. Like, it is literally the crying Wojak. Like it or hate it, this board design was meant to create conversations about the use of AI in marketing/design, and we welcome that conversation. Dude, this conversation was maybe relevant 2 or 3 years ago. The conversation is over now. Everyone hates AI. We all think it will probably be the end of humanity. Like, we're all against AI. And, you know, maybe AI is good in like a meme, or like maybe it's a funny TikTok that you can laugh at. But this is art on a $700 board. There's nothing ironic or funny about trying to sell something for $700 using this disgusting anti-human slop. And you could clearly tell that this stupid robot took inspiration from the Capita DOA, but instead of putting a beautiful, divinely feminine figure on it, they put this disgusting looking pig. And they have been getting extremely ratioed. And the top comment, that's a lot of words to justify using AI art. Sounds like an excuse to pay real artists. In Yes's defense, which I don't even think this is a defense. This is just showing how lame Yes's artists are. They were paid to come up with these. You are getting swindled by paying these artists to come up with this shit. This is so disgusting and ugly. Fire the artists immediately, or make them sand down all of these boards and hand draw some horny snowboards or something. Like, you can't release these to the public. You could get this piece of shit for $630 right now if you wanted to. So it's no joke. It's they're not playing some 4D chess, and they don't have an epic rollout where they were gonna be like, fuck AI, it's all a joke. I think this is a real deal, and this will be in Christie Sports soon, which is disturbing. You should get F tier for this, but my kindness, because I do want what's best for you, will actually, nah. You get F tier for this. That is actually the ugliest snowboard graphic I've ever seen. Conversation is over. I kind of respect you wanting to be risky, and you knew you were going to get backlash from it, but, dude, no one asked for it. You know, if everyone hates AI and you're trying to sell something for $700, why would you make an AI garbage snowboard? It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
The truth is too much for the internet to handle. You know, in the end of the day, snowboarding is all about the freedom, the flow of the run, doing it your own authentic way. I think tequila is the same.
Alright, we got Ride Snowboards next. And typically I'm a fan of their graphics. They're able to be detailed and simplistic. You know, like, a board like this was not made on Microsoft Word. It's not boring Helvetica font, but it's still, you know, simple and clean, which I like a lot more than, you know, the Microsoft Word looking boards. And yeah, they usually have pretty tasteful graphics for the most part. I think it was either the Ride Kink or the Ride Zero that came out last year, and it was like a light blue board that had like this metallic looking Ride symbol. I thought that was a beautiful board. You know, there's nothing horny about these snowboards, but I still like them. And even though they are simplistic for the most part, I typically admire what Ride puts out. They got a bunch of legends on their team, dude. I mean, they probably have, for the snowboarding I like to watch, the best team out of any single other company. I can count on Ride to put out some epic videos every year. Every year, Ride's gonna show me some entertaining street clips that will get me frothing to go snowboarding the next day. So I do like Ride for a lot of reasons. Y'all made a pretty stupid mistake. All you had to do was not use AI bullshit art for me to think that you were cool. But of course, you used AI bullshit art. If you look at this skeletal figure right here, that is not how ribs look. You know, I'm no artist, but I know every single artist studies human anatomy, and like, they learn how to make ribs and skeletons, and they know that skeletons don't have 7 fingers. At least the LibTech artist knows how to fucking draw a skeleton, you know? I mean, come on, dude. And of course, everybody is hating on them because Ride seems like such a cool company. They put out great videos every year. They have a good team. They usually have good graphics. All of that, even outside of this disgusting AI skeleton, it's all kind of a front, because Ride, of course, is owned by K2, or K2 and Ride are the same. And then when you go to the top of the pyramid, there's like a company that owns K2 and Ride. There's a company that owns that company. And at the very top, you have Kohlberg. And, you know, Burton gets a lot of hate for being the big corporate guys, and I think Ride kind of gets away from it. We should be against this as snowboarders, or as people, you know? We should be against this B right here. If your company's making $17 billion or whatever, if you're ever talking in the billions, you're probably in the wrong. You probably are not that fucking cool. And anytime you buy a Ride or a K2 board, you are helping these people get more billions. So let's take a look at their snowboarding team. None of these guys look that cool. None of them can front board, I bet. And let's look at their top dogs. Samuel Frieder. He's fried. Yeah, dude. Drop the part. People hate on Burton, but Jake Burton could shred. And now, Donna Carpenter, I've seen her ride some POW. Samuel, show us you riding your K2 and ride boards, dude. Gordon Woodward? No fucking way. How deep does this go? Woodward? What? Gordon Woodward, show us part clips of you riding Woodward. I doubt you can. But Ride presents himself as like a cool street company, but you're owned, brother. There's nothing cool about being owned by a $17 billion company. Alright, and that needs to be said. Yeah, Ride, if you actually were rider owned, if you didn't use AI slop graphics, I would probably give you S tier, dude. I've always liked your team. I've liked your videos. But you are owned, but alright, you got Jill Perkins. You'll get C tier. Ride is cooler than K2. K2 also has some Dustbox riders. You know, they got K2's not that bad, I guess. And I could probably hate on K2 for being a skiing company that transitioned to snowboarding. I'm actually gonna give K2 some cred points because I think they were one of the first to do it, unlike Solomon, who took much longer to get into snowboarding. So if you were a ski company and you were an early adapter of snowboarding, I'll be a little bit nicer to you. But yeah, you still get D tier, and that's mainly because of Kohlberg. You're not cool if you're owned by a $17 billion corporation. If you want to argue against that ride, hit me up, dude. But at least I'm not owned by a $17 billion corporation. Alright? And you may be thinking to yourself, surely there has to be a cool snowboard company. Surely there has to be a company with a cool team that's rider owned, is in it, that's showing street clips, that's making good videos. That is Public. Public does all the things that Ride does well, but they're not owned by a $17 billion corporation. They are owned by Joe Sexton. An absolute legend, and this is his snowboard company. Tasteful Snowboards. Beautiful, clean, no AI bullshit going on here. And yeah, obviously they got Joe Sexton, they have Jib Girl, Brett Kulas. I think they are missing horny snowboards, which is why they can't get S tier, alright? But yeah, you would be like a perfect, no harm, no foul snowboard company if you made some more horny snowboards. And then next up, DINOS. You guys know I can't talk shit about DINOS. This is a perfect snowboard company. They're not owned by a billion-dollar corporation. They're not using AI. They are in the streets. All of these boards are affordable, and they look cool too. Impaler, dude. Look at this. This is a beautiful board. It's so freaking cool. If you don't know what Impaler is, get educated. Look at this clip. That's some Impaler shit, dude. Whoo! That's some Impaler shit, dude. So if you like this type of riding, look at that old guy getting after it in the streets. Front board same way. Another front board same way. Onto a 50-50. We like this type of riding. We like the Impaler mag. So, DINOS, perfect company. I would give them S tier if they had a board with tits on it. And, dude, I love these pants too. These are some dope ass pants. DINOS, easy A tier. NIDECKER. Let's start with NIDECKER Groups. That is the company that owns most companies in snowboarding.
So NIDECKER Groups owns the second largest market share in snowboarding right after Burton, at least according to Google. So if you're anti-big dog, if you're anti-corporate, obviously don't buy NIDECKER Groups or any of the brands they own. And I want to clarify this. If you truly want to be, if you really want a niche snowboard, none of the brands that I mentioned in these videos are all that niche. My advice to you, if you truly want a niche underground snowboard under your feet, this is what you gotta do. Spend a lot of time at your local, talk to a lot of people on the chairlift, talk to a lot of people in the terrain park, and eventually you'll find some weird dude that makes snowboards out of his garage. And they may not be the best has snowboards, but I guarantee you that guy's gonna be super cool. He's super local, super hesh, and you know, buy from that guy if you truly want a niche snowboard. It's probably not gonna be the best tech, but I guarantee you could board slide it, you can have fun with that board, and you'll have a super cool story to tell. Please do not think that DINOS or Public is niche, because that's crazy.
Out of all of the companies NIDECKER Group owns, NIDECKER is the lamest. First of all, I don't even think NIDECKER is a snowboarder. I'm always going to be against having a last name on a board if they're not a real snowboarder. I think that's my main reason. The graphics is another reason. NIDECKER, straight up, not that cool. But they are better than, you know, Kohlberg. And they're not as corporate as K2 or Ride, at least their company structure. That being said, I still think K2 and Ride are cooler than NIDECKER, if that makes any sense. I know that can be a little bit confusing. Alright, another company that NIDECKER owns, Jones Snowboards. I don't own a helicopter, so I don't like Jones Snowboards. If you own a helicopter, if you like skiing and split boarding up a mountain for 10 minutes of snowboarding, maybe Jones is for you. Even if I owned a helicopter, I think I would be more of like a LibTech type of guy. You know what I'm saying? So even amongst helicopter owners, I think Jones is the lamest snowboard company. Also, another negative thing about Jones, they do the age-old uncreative idea of putting a mountain on their snowboard. But yeah, they're not using any AI, so they're not that bad at the end of the day. For all of my shit talking, all of these snowboard companies, besides Kohlberg, has snowboarding on their website. They show snowboarding on their homepage. Once again, if you're confused why Salomon is in F tier, let's look at their website. This has nothing to fucking do with snowboarding. Salomon is also another corporate lame company that cares more about their shoes than snowboarding. That's why Salomon is still an F tier, in case you were curious. And then lastly, Signal Snowboards. Signal has been off my radar. Boom, plan joked. Not funny at all. Yeah, Signal has been off my radar. They just really haven't been doing much. I'm not too opinionated on Signal. If anything, I have positive opinions on them because of this guy, East Bumfuck. I don't know the deal. I think it's kind of peculiar that Signal doesn't have a place where they show off their team on their website. I think that's kind of weird. Let's see if they have any horny snowboards. Oh, that's a pretty cool graphic. Yeah, no horny snowboards. Yeah, but most of their graphics are pretty cool, despite them not having horny snowboards. These were all made by real people. No AI here. You could just tell by looking at it, you know? And Signal used to have a dope channel. They used to do something called Every Third Thursday. The only reason why Signal was even on my radar at all was because of this video. I think this was really low-key the only thing they did of relevance last year, which is bring out an old snowboard. But, well, alright, let's get the make. Come on. This is pretty, it's cool, dude. And Every Third Thursday was like a series that they used to do, and you know how like Braille like put a bunch of like, you know, like they wrote a TV and stuff and a door. Signal kind of has that approach, but with, they're cool about it, you know, they're not cringe YouTube Braille content, but they low-key do the same exact thing, they just edit it and present it different. I think they should bring back the Every Third Thursday series, because they used to make some bangers. Urethane Snowboard, Whiskey Barrel Snowboard, Boombox Snowboard, a snowboard made out of air. They're doing fun stuff, or they were doing fun stuff, they were having fun, and I think if they revamped this series, or, you know, just did something to make us still talk about Signal, I think that would be a good move for them. But yeah, Signal's pretty cool. They get 5 big booms tier. Alright guys, this is my final list. Everything is in exact order now, based on my opinions. And I want to end this video in one thing. You know, there's a lot that snowboard companies do wrong, but really the biggest issue right now is AI graphics on our boards. So please don't buy Yes, Capita, Burton, or Ride. Not even just their AI graphics. Send a message that we really don't want this in snowboarding. And it's super lame and stupid, and snowboarding is supposed to be cool, and we don't want AI graphics in snowboarding. So please don't buy any of the brands that participate in it. If I forgot any of the brands, please write some comments, and maybe I can do a garbage AI board graphic tier list or something. Yeah, so please don't support brands that use AI on their board design.